also have a big-time trade out here in the Bay Area. For the second straight year, John Lynch, Adam Peters worked their phone lines, and they get some much-needed help. Now, how much will this help? We will try to break that down, and time will tell. But they bring in Chase Young, the former number 2 overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. And look, has he underachieved so far in his career? Absolutely. We'll get into that. 888-957-9570. Your thoughts on the Chase Young trade. He is now in San Francisco, reunited with his former teammate at Ohio State, Nick Bosa. So Chase Young is now a new member of the San Francisco 49ers as he looked to get to the quarterback, as he looked to fix his defense, and looked to get back on track.
You know, I'm a sucker for former high talent, high potential people who have flamed out somewhere else. I'm a big believer in change of scenery. And I was thinking about this guy right here. I don't know how great or how good he will be for the 49ers. I don't really understand what went wrong for him in Washington. I look from afar at Washington, not that I know them at all, but I'm like, they've been a bad franchise for a long time, right? They obviously have new ownership. Feels like they're going in a different direction. But this seems like a guy that, I think can help the 49ers. Now, to what degree, I don't know. What kind of player are they getting? Can't wait to see. But to me, this is a low-risk move. A comp pick to give up for someone like Chase Young who has high pedigree and has kind of not lived up to the standards feels a lot like Andrew Wiggins. Feels a lot like Andrew Wiggins to me. And so I look at it this way. Had they surrendered a second-round pick, second round's high. I'm a big believer in value, right? And I look at who the Niners have taken with some of these comp picks and where that comp pick ends up landing, somewhere between 95 and 115, depending on how many comp picks are awarded every year. Yeah, I will surrender a 100 pick overall for someone who I know could play in the NFL. I think fits what they need to do on the edge, and I'm taking a flyer on him. And we don't have to make a financial decision on the guy for another year.
No, it's a low-risk, high-reward move. It's a move you do.
You don't seem too excited.
No, I'm not. You want me to cheerlead? You want me to shake some pom-poms here? Look, Chase Young, here's how I feel about Chase Young. And to what you just said, it's all true. You make the move. It's a third-round pick. You had 12 picks going into the NFL draft. You flip one for a rental. I'm all about that life. All about that life. The guy has a ton of potential. He really does. He's in the top 5 in pressures this year. I think he has one less or one more than Nick Bosa on the season. So, and this is post-ACL injury. But you said something yesterday, and it's something that stuck with me, and it's something that I recall having a conversation about after the Fiesta Bowl. You mentioned yesterday, we were talking about Chase Young, Montez Sweat. You mentioned Clowney 2.0.
Yeah.
Clowney 2.0. And when it comes to Clowney 2.0, my mindset is, boy, Jadeveon Clowney is underachieved in this NFL career.
For sure.
And I would even say, before that, Jadeveon Clowney 2.0, I would say LeVar Arrington 2.0. LeVar Arrington was a top 3 pick out of Penn State, all the talent in the world. You look at his NFL career and you say, he underachieved. He really did. He underachieved. Chase Young so far has underachieved. Now, he's in the midst of having his best season of his NFL career, this post-ACL injury. He's got his burst back. He looks good rushing the passer. He's got 5 sacks on the season. He's got 15 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. I think he will help this 49ers football team. But I am skeptical. I am. I want to see it. I want to see it because the reports are conflicting, right? Coming out of Washington, coming from Michael Silver, the San Francisco Chronicle. And I want to get into it with Grant Paulson, who's a long time. Mm-hmm. He's been covering that team for a long, long time. Former NFL player, now on 106.7 The Fan in D.C. I want to hear about Chase Young because my mindset goes back to the Fiesta Bowl when I was there in person to watch Clemson, Ohio State. Now, this is a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Long time ago. And he's a lot more mature, probably filled out a lot more. But I remember walking out of that game with Big Dog City, and I was like, he wasn't even one of the 5 best players in that football game. Barely even one of the top 10 players in that football game. That was a football game that had Isaiah Simmons, Justin Ross, T. Higgins, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jeff Okudah. And I was like, Chase Young, J.K. Dobbins, their running back, who may have looked like the best player on the field outside of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. And I was like, Chase Young did nothing today. And I look back and I was watching the back yesterday, that whole Fiesta Bowl, just trying to get my mindset going on Chase Young. And I was like, man, he really didn't do anything in this football game. Yeah. And then not as college. Then you think back to what he's done in the NFL so far, and I get it. He won Rookie of the Year with 7.5 sacks. But he's underachieved so far in his career.
Yeah, but you're not paying the number 2 overall pick for him. Like, you're giving up a third-round
I get
pick,
the financial
right?
component.
And I look at it right now.
I'm looking at this, the player.
Yeah, and I am too.
Player.
He's better than Drake Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Right?
By how much?
Well, to me, a lot, because Drake Jackson can't even get on the field very much for you.
Drake
and when he's on the field, he's invisible. So I look at this as you've upgraded a position. This is not like allocating a ton of money and allocating a ton of draft capital on a player. Because, like, I look at the D Ford acquisition, right? And part of baked into the evaluation on D Ford was you gave up a second-round pick, which ended up being like the 33rd, 34th overall pick. So that almost is a first-rounder. And you had to pay him a ton of money. So, like the Randy Gregory deal, you give up a late-round draft pick, and they're paying all the salary.
I understand.
In this one, I mean, you're paying the guy basically $5 million this year.
I preface my comments by saying it's a low-risk, high-reward move, and it's a move you do. And I'm not mad at the move because you needed help, which is sad in a way. Like, and here's another reason why I'm conflicted. It's sad in a way. When you pay Bosa the $120 million guaranteed, and you go out and spend $84 million on Javon Hargrave, and you go out there and you pay Eric Armstead, and you spend high draft capital for Javon Kinlaw, and then you go trade for Randy Gregory, and you spend a second-round pick on Drake Jackson, and you still need defensive line help, and you still have to go out there and trade for a defensive line, that to me is like, okay, now there's no excuses. There's no excuses to go get after the quarterback. I don't want to hear anything about getting after the quarterback from Bosa, Chase Young, Armstead, Hargrave, whoever. So that's all I'm saying. This is a low-risk, high-reward move. I'm not mad at it, but I am skeptical of the player because the player has underwhelmed so far in his career.
Okay.
That's it. That's all.
Let's look at it from a Niner roster perspective. Forget what he's done in Washington. Is he an upgrade over what they have right now?
Yeah, what they've had right now has done nothing.
Yeah. So,
you know, it's not hard to be an upgrade over Drake Jackson.
But look, it doesn't solve all their woes, but to me, it adds to what they have. And here's what I would say about the Bosa thing. It's unfortunate that they have to continue to reinvest back into this defensive line. I mean, you referenced all the players. You didn't even reference they've spent first-round picks on Kinlaw and DeForest Buckner and all these. No, I'm saying like the draft capital that you had to use and the money, right? So they've dumped a ton of assets into the defensive line, and it is unfortunate they have to go here. But here's what I would say: when you upgrade your kitchen, you better have a nice bathroom. Otherwise, the kitchen looks crummy in comparison. And so when you spend $125 on Bosa, if you got to spend another $5 on the other edge to be able to recoup premium money on the $125, I'm okay with that. It's not the worst thing. Does it solve their secondary issues? I don't think so. Does it solve their offensive line issues? No, I don't think so. Does it help them with, I think they need another wide receiver. No, that doesn't help them. Right. But it's the best that they could do given the circumstances. And I'm always a big believer, swing big on guys who have premium talent and maybe just need a change of scenery.
I'm with that. I'm all about that life. You see it in the NBA all the time. Change of scenery, moving around. Get around this team, get around Chris Kosaric. It's a solid move for the 49ers. It shows that, look, John Lynch and Adam Peters are willing to make bold moves over and over and over again. And they tripled down on this year. So it's not Super Bowl or try again. The 49ers just told you yesterday, it's about winning this year. It's not about next year. It's about this year and maximizing this season and trying to get the best out of this roster to end up in Las Vegas for a Super Bowl. That's what it's about. It ain't no Super Bowl try again. So that, number one, that's dead. So you go bring in Chase Young, and it signals, hey, even though we gave up a third-round pick for him, we're trying to win now because we we got to get after the quarterback. We're not doing enough to get after the quarterback. So I get that. But I want to see it from Chase Young because there's been a lot more hype than actual action.
Undeniable.
And that's why I'm like, all right, cool. You got Chase Young. Now I need to see it.
Well, this is a situation where there should be no excuses for him because you're playing with a bunch of other guys on that defensive line. Sweat was a very good player. He got traded as well yesterday. I just look at value when you do these deals, right? Like last year, Christian McCaffrey, they needed a jolt in the run game. Does anyone care what they gave up for Christian McCaffrey? No. And Christian McCaffrey was a grand slam. I mean, not even a home run. It was a grand slam type of an acquisition. Look at some of the other deals that were out there. Sweat is going to be a free agent as well. They gave up a second-round pick, the Bears. And the Bears are going to have 35th, 36th, 37th overall pick, basically a first rounder in the same way the D Ford deal went down. And when you you trade a draft pick of that high value, you better overpay for the player to keep him on your team, right? So I don't know what the Bears are doing. Then I look at what's going on with Leonard Williams. They gave up a second-round pick for another guy who's going to be a free agent. I think given the value of where we're at with a third rounder and it's a comp pick and all of their third round picks over the last couple of years, TDP, Latu. I mean, there have been some bad third round picks. I know this guy can play in the NFL. I know he can be a base down player for me. I like this move. I like it a lot.
I like the move. Do I love it? We'll see. You got to make me love it. But doesn't it make you skeptical
of what?
That Washington can get more than a third-round comp pick for Chase Young, and they got more for Montez Sweat, and Leonard Williams.
I think
the
Montez
Seahawks
is
gave up more.
The way I view it from afar, I think Montez is a less injured, better player right now in terms of looking at his body of work.
Right. So that's why I look at it. I'm saying, why did Chase Young not, attract more value? Why did he not attract, a second round? This is the number 2 overall pick in 2020 in the NFL draft. And all Washington can do is get a third rounder for him. So all of a sudden, I like the Niners' perspective. Hey, let's bring this guy in the building. If he walks in free agency, we get another comp pick. I get all that. Financially, it makes sense. It's a low-risk, high-reward move. Again, I'll repeat myself all day long by saying that. You add him to this defensive line room, great. But why did he only garner a third-round pick? Is it because of the injury history?
It's gotta be.
Is it because of the money that he's going to want in the offseason? Because Montez Sweat will want money as well. Montez Sweat, apparently, according to all the people in Washington, has been more consistent.
Yeah.
Craig Hoffman, who I follow, who works out there in Washington, D.C., radio host, he goes, I was following his Twitter timeline yesterday, he goes, Washington has played better when Young is off the field. That's why I can't wait to talk to Grant Paulson, because why did they only give up a third-round pick? How can they only get a third-round pick? So that's why I'm looking at it at both sides here.
Yeah,
For the 49ers side, it's a win. When you give up that pick and all the picks that you have, it's a win.
Think about all of the top guys that have come here on one-year prove-it deals, and Chris Kosaric has squeezed the lemon to be able to get the most out of them. I mean, nobody thought highly of Arden Key a couple of years ago. Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu. These are cast-off type players that they brought to this team and had big impact for this team. And really, a Chase Young third-round pick, if I told a 49er fan, he has one good game down the stretch. One good game. I think it's worth it. I really do. One good game could be the difference of hosting a playoff game or going on the road the entire time, or maybe even winning the NFC West. So, I think about
I would want more than one good game.
Of course you do. I'm looking at the Jordan Willis acquisition, Charles Omenihu. These were mid-season acquisitions that ended up being very fruitful for the 49ers.
But this is Chase Young. He has to be better than all those guys you just listed. He has to be better than those guys.
Well, you didn't draft him number 2 overall. Yeah, you're giving up a third-round comp pick.
But he's a guy who's probably going to start for your football team.
No doubt. No doubt.
He's a guy who has a lot of hype.
And he provides a ton of depth, B. And I think, to me, this is a great situation for him to prove himself.
Is depth good when you don't have, Baldy said it yesterday, when they sub out Bosa and Hargrave, this defensive line is very mediocre. Wow. Very mediocre. So is depth even depth? I looked at Philadelphia and I say that's depth.
Of course.
That's depth. They got 7 starters on that defensive line. That's the best defensive line room in all of football. Best defensive line, hands down. I just need to see it from Chase.
Well, look, if you're asking, I'm looking at it right now, Antonio Bryant was a guy who was in your rotation as a defensive end. He's not cracking any lineups. So now you got Randy Gregory. Right. You've got him. Who knows where this leaves Drake Jackson? I mean, obviously it's not a vote of confidence for him. And Givens has had moments this year. Kinlaw had a decent start to the year. Feels like he's faded since then. I don't think you can ever have enough good players. And so I want to add somebody that I know can play. He's 24 years old.
Yeah,
I think this is a prove-it opportunity, a change of scenery spot for him. And if he can get right with this particular defensive line, I think it's a win-win for us.
No, is it fair to be skeptical though?
Oh, no doubt.
Is it fair to look at all angles of the situation?
Well, look, I referenced Arden Key as somebody who came here and had a nice little run. Cleveland Farrell, he's shown a little, but most people wanted more. They don't make a deal like this if Cleveland Farrell's a little better, if Drake Jackson ascends, right?
Drake Jackson's been, you heard Baldy
very
yesterday.
Disappointing.
Baldy said he's the biggest disappointment possibly. All right, I'll let Baldy say it.
There's one disappointing player on this whole team right now. It's Drake Jackson. Because I saw such promise last year.
Yep.
And I saw ankle flexion. I saw effort. And I saw all that. I haven't seen him do anything. Like, you can have all the talent in the world. I mean, if you're not hitting the quarterback in this business, I mean, you're just taking up a roster spot.
Peter King, we'll get to the calls in a second. 888-957-9570. How would you grade this trade for the 49ers? Do you like it? Do you love it? It's hard not to like it. I get that. It's hard not to like it for what you gave up. Well, I got no problem with that whatsoever. Bring him into the building. Let's see what he has. Maybe a change of scenery helps him. Maybe Chris Kosaric helps him. How will he adjust to the wide nine? What do they run at Washington? Do they run a wide nine?
See, that's a great question.
How will he do that? How will he affect the wide nine? Would that help him? That spacing that he gets in the wide nine. Does he play the run well? How well because that's the other problem with defensive line. For the last 3 weeks, teams are running the football on them. They're pushing them off the line of scrimmage.
I agree.
So does he play the run well? I don't know these things because I don't watch a lot of Washington Commander football.
Well, I just look at it this way. I think he's a better football player than Drake Jackson, and I believe that he's got more upside than someone like Randy Gregory. And I look at what you gave up to get him. You have a third-round pick that hasn't played it down for you in the regular season in Cameron Latu right now. You have a safety who's only playing on special teams, who is this year, a third-round pick for you. I know Chase Young can go out there and give me some positive plays. So that, to me, is an upgrade. It's all about winning now. I'm not in the mode of worrying about what a third-round pick could materialize in next year.
I don't care about that either. I don't care about that whatsoever. I want to make that clear. I don't care about the picks. I don't care about anything. I care about the team getting better. I care about the defensive line getting after the quarterback. I care about the defensive line stopping the run. I care about the defensive line helping out the secondary. And I care about this defensive line not making excuses week in and week out on why they can't get to the quarterback. Now, Peter King joined Willard at Dibs yesterday, and he called the trade weird.
I think it's a little weird that they had to go do this. And honestly, another time, another day, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan might have said, that let's go get Jalen Johnson for what we had to pay for Chase Young. Or let's go get Rasul Douglas, for a little bit less maybe than we had to pay. I mean, because this team is not without problems in the secondary. So I guess I look at it and say, it's okay. It's probably a good move. But I mean, if you thought after you got Javon Hargrave and signed Nick Bosa that you were going to have to go and make this, I don't even want to call it an urgent signing, whatever you want to call it, at the trade deadline for one of the best edge guys in the game, I think they might have said, are you kidding me? Do you realize how much we have spent, to fortify the defensive line? I don't know. I would look at it and say, I understand why they did it, and it's not a horrible move, but I don't think that they ever thought they were going to have to do this.
Very interesting perspective there.
That is interesting, because I always looked at it this way. As a non-Patriot fan, there were so many years, and they've earned the Super Bowl benefit of the doubt, but like when the Patriots used to make a move, it'd be like, oh, the Patriots got him. He's going to do well. Whether a guy did or not, we always gave them that benefit of the doubt. Same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, the Chiefs got so-and-so. They're going to be good. I feel like the Niners have kind of earned the benefit of the doubt. They don't have the Super Bowl equity that those other teams have. They've been damn good the last 4 or 5 years. And so when they acquire somebody, I feel like it should be a good acquisition. And given what they've given up for this guy, and given what his age is and the situation that he'll be playing in, he won't have to be the premier guy. He's like the third or fourth guy that an offensive line might be thinking about. I think this is a true opportunity to show whether he is good or not, or ever could realize his potential.
Well, yeah, he's going into the offseason as a free agent, so it's a big year for him as well.